Hello everyone, and welcome to this first in a short series of videos I'm putting together based around my recent 3-week road trip around the South Island of New Zealand. This is not the first time I've visited New Zealand, but it is the first time I've visited with a view to shooting some landscape photography of the country. Now, not a great deal of pre-planning went into this trip. We essentially flew into Christchurch, hired a camper van and then headed off towards the west coast. The only pre-planning we really did do was based on the knowledge of some key locations that I wanted to photograph. We'd also picked up a copy of this, which is the Lonely Planet's Guide to the South Island of New Zealand. And within that book was a copy of this map, which we used to plan our travel route around the country as we went. While we were there, we were fairly fortunate with the weather that we encountered. There's always the concern that we were going to get over there and there'd be 3 weeks worth of rain, which isn't ideal for photography. But we certainly got lucky in that respect and seemed to be at all times either just behind or just in front of large storm fronts that were passing through the areas we were visiting. The first part of this video starts, we've just picked up the van from Christchurch and we've headed west, essentially into the centre of the country. It's about an hour and a half drive west of Christchurch, and our first campsite was a little place called Lake Pearson. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to shoot much photography or video in this first little part. It was raining fairly solidly, and it took us a little bit longer to get through customs and pick up the van and get that stocked up than I'd first hoped. And so we were on the road, and photography was probably the last thing on my mind at that time. Anyway, look, enough rambling from me. Let's get into the videos. I hope you really enjoy coming along on this little road trip around the South Island of New Zealand. I certainly enjoyed being there and loved the opportunity to shoot some of the most epic landscape locations that I've visited. It really was a pleasure to photograph the beauty and the sheer scale and awesome nature of the landscapes that we encountered in the South Island of New Zealand. I can't wait to get back there. I'm planning my next trip already, and I really hope you enjoy these videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Cheers. So, we are in New Zealand, and we touched down Christchurch last night and picked up the camper van, and this is day one of our trip. So we've headed from Christchurch, we're heading over the west coast on the West Coast Road, and about an hour and a half out of Christchurch we've come across this area which I believe is called Castle Hill, which is a series of giant limestone boulders that protrude out of the side of the mountain or the hill here, and is surrounded by the valley and all the peaks around off in the distance. It's raining here a bit today, so I don't think the photography's going to be much chop. So I might have a look around here a bit more. There's so much to look at, and then make my way back down to the van. Alright, so heading back to the van now. called time on Castle Hill. The rain's really starting to set in now, so I'm not sure there's too much photography up there. I took a couple of shots, just some exposure blends, and we'll see how they come out in post-production once I get them in there. Yeah, look, really interesting spot to have a look around. Quite slippery up the top, but well worth the visit. Anyway, we'll head back to the van and get back on the road. So it's the end of our first day here in New Zealand, and we've done a bit of an epic road trip from pretty much the east coast right over to the west. We spent last night in a little spot called Lake Pearson, which is about an hour and a half out of Christchurch, and then we picked up the drive and drove through Arthur's Pass today. It was pretty wet and windy coming through the pass, so I didn't have a lot of opportunities to get out and shoot, and the weather just didn't really lend itself to landscape photography. So anyway, we arrived over on the west coast, and we've been checking out some of the little towns around the area. Quite a beautiful place around here, and we've just ended up at a small lake, or I guess it's a large lake, called Lake Manapua. I think that's the right terminology. I'll put the real name up on the top of the screen here. And anyway, it's late in the afternoon. I've come down to the edge of the lake, and I'm just going to scout around for a few compositions. There's a nice jetty here. I might use that as a leading line out into the lake, and then we've got the Alps that are off in the distance, and they're sitting above the trees on the opposite side of the lake. So my intention isn't to bag a shot down here at the lake this afternoon. I'm merely just doing a recce and having a bit of a scout around for some compositions. And the intention is to return tomorrow morning and hopefully capture some beautiful early morning light. the New Zealand South Island road trip. I'm still here at Lake Manahapwa, and I'm shooting some sunrise images here this morning. It's absolutely stunning down here at the lake. Got a beautiful, calm surface of the lake. There's a very light breeze, but nothing too dramatic. Not like yesterday afternoon anyway. And I'm getting some really beautiful side light on this scene that I'm shooting behind me as the sun's risen off to the east. I'm out on the jetty that I was out on yesterday afternoon. I'm shooting a fairly simple panoramic composition where I have some of the headland, the trees off on the right hand side of the frame, and that leads around to the mountains on the left hand side of the frame. I've also got some beautiful texture from all the reed grass in the water in the foreground. I'm only taking a few shots here this morning. We're going to get back on the road fairly shortly and continue heading south down the west coast, and hopefully later this afternoon might shoot a sunset from a place called Lake Matheson. Apparently it's another stunning lake with the mountains as the backdrop. It seems to be a pretty common theme here in New Zealand, on the South Island anyway. The settings this morning are fairly simple. I'm shooting a f/13 aperture, and I've got the 10-stop neutral density filter on the front of the camera, and I'm shooting some long exposures of about 30 seconds just to really smooth out the surface of the lake. I've had some beautiful side light on the scene this morning, and it's kind of transformed it, and I wasn't too sure about the composition when I set up in the pre-dawn light, but once that sun hit all the trees and the sides of the mountains in the distance, it really added a beautiful element to this scene. Anyway, I'll continue shooting, and I'll pack up the camera shortly and get on the road. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Next time on the New Zealand South Island series,